surprisingly frequently, we engage with organizations, we talk with organizations who are on a cloud migration strategy. They're pushing workloads increasingly into the cloud, and they haven't really developed the network or the network strategy to underpin that successfully. What are the consequences of that? And I guess as a sort of sub question, could we not just iterate as we go? As things, move fast and break things, right? So start throwing some applications up into the cloud, see what happens to the network, and tweak as we go. Can we not do that?
I think that the biggest challenge with that approach is that networks are not traditionally agile. There's fixed components to many networks, and if you start at a very basic level, connectivity is not known for being very agile. You can get some flexibility in connectivity, but not a lot of organizations opt to put in huge barriers just in case that they need to increase the bandwidth, because there's a cost implication of that. So it's not the agile mindset, if you like, or methodology that we see in I guess the cloud space is not quite there yet within the network space. So you've got to plan strategically ahead around, well, yeah, if we're gonna change our application landscape, if we're gonna move all of our local applications or central or regional applications, we're going to put them in Azure or AWS. That's obviously changing the dynamic of the traffic profile. By changing the dynamic of the traffic profile means you need to think about network capacity. You potentially need to think about additional resilience. You need to think about performance. You need to think about best path in terms of being able to route that traffic directly to consume that application, whichever cloud platform it's sat in. So the iterative approach, it works to a certain extent where you've got some flexibility, but I think you've got to back to the point of the network's foundational service, and it's really core to building out a successful cloud strategy. You've got to think about planning that as part of the cloud migration aspect as well.
And I guess, obviously from conversations we've had on previous podcasts and other white papers, that transformation timeline, I know we'll get onto this in more detail later on, but that transformational timeline, that's pretty long, right? To transform the network to provide a true platform for cloud enablement, that doesn't take days or weeks, that takes months and years.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, again, it's back to the nature of the network, really. So there's some things that can be done, and increasingly we see more and more capability in software, if you like. So we see more and more SD type services, whether it's at the edge of the infrastructure, whether it's within the cloud through SASE. We're starting to see, steps into that world where we're seeing more agile type network consumption capabilities. But for the majority of customers, they're not quite there yet. So strategically, that's where this should be going, and we'll talk about what it looks like in a second. But yeah, for a lot of organisations, it's a big task to say, actually, if we want to cloudify our application estate, we're going to move all of our localized applications. We're going to get rid of our data centers. We're going to centralize or put everything in a distributed cloud infrastructure. You've got to take a lot of consideration around, well, what network do we need to be able to enable that? How do we ensure that whether it's a remote machine, whether it's a user in an office location, whether it's somebody that's sat working from home, how do we ensure that we're getting the right type of network experience and user experience? How do we ensure it's secure? How do we ensure it's resilient? How do we ensure it's got the capacity and flexibility? How do we ensure it's directly connected where possible to the cloud services? Optimizing that connection, so not backhauling traffic through a single point or having any bottlenecks or constraints within the network. All of these moving parts need to be then sort of factored into what's the future network architecture look like.